Hello, guys. Solana's down for a week more. Is it finished? And who's going to benefit? We'll talk about those things in this episode of Dragon Ball Z. Well, not really Dragon Ball Z, but maybe Crypto Ball Z or something like that. Anyways, we all know that Solana's targeted date is April 15th for fixing this issue. But there's absolutely no guarantee they can actually fix the issue and they can get things running as usual. However, I have to remind people again that nothing mission critical actually runs on Solana. It's basically a bunch of meme coins and DeFi protocols right now. So it's not like hospitals are going to fall, missiles are going to misfire, and things like that, because it's basically all retail users doing a lot of gambling and trading on the chain. And while they will be pissed off, people will survive. And it's not like Solana is one of those chains that depends on huge partnerships and that hype to keep it afloat. So I don't think Solana is finished, first of all, but it will suffer. It will be hit by this. It's not going to be completely unaffected because with its problems, people are going to look for other chains. This is added to the fact that people were already looking at other solutions even before this. For instance, you look at Solana and you look at Base. Base was already growing even before Solana had this issue. And I can tell from my Solana portfolio that the value of the coins is dropping because of Solana's basically screw up at this point. I think it will come back, but some of that liquidity is going to leave to other chains because people are going to explore other options. And once they get used to those other options, they may not bring that portion of the money back to Solana. We have to acknowledge that. We have to be realistic about it. You're not invincible to screw ups, and there are other chains that can do fast and cheap transactions. And since that's the case, once you make a screw up, people are going to leave. Now, it's not going to be like IOTA last time where they went down for a month, because IOTA didn't really have much of an ecosystem anyways, and DeFi wasn't there in the first place. So I don't think Solana is going to suffer that much. And plus, their downtime isn't going to be a month. Their chain is still running. It's just really bogged down and slow. I did try a transaction today on stream and it failed. So people are definitely going to go other routes. So even though Solana is not dead, it's going to face a lot more competition when it comes back. What kind of competition? Which chains will benefit? Will Ethereum benefit? No, people aren't going back to the Ethereum-based chain because despite Solana being jammed right now and being really slow, Ethereum's basically like that all the time. Plus, it's expensive. So no one's going to go back to base layer Ethereum. However, the layer 2s will benefit. Base is probably going to be one of the primary beneficiaries of Solana's kind of small downfall type of thing, because a lot of the meme coins are already going onto Base, and some of the DeFi protocols on Base are actually shooting up. You see Base activity is coming up. The number of wallets is coming up on Base. Now, Base was already coming up in activity, regardless of Solana or not, but this Solana downfall has actually attracted more people to Base. And I think Base numbers are surging. Now, unfortunately for everyone, there's not a Base token, and I don't think there's going to be a Base coin for the next year or two as Coinbase fights the SEC. They're not going to make their own token and make their own case harder to argue because, that would be stupid. And Coinbase is not that stupid, so they're not going to do that. You can get on the Base network by buying any Base-based coin on Coinbase and then using that to trade for other coins on Coinbase. Might be a little confusing because there's not a Base chain, but it's really not all that confusing. Or you can just use Ethereum, but that could actually have a couple of problems in terms of fees as well. But Base is up and running, and it's pretty fast and it's cheap. We've seen when it does get congested, fees do tend to actually go up like any other chain. That's the thing about these other chains too. If any of them have the volume that Solana does in terms of transactions, especially smart contract transactions, they might actually just have the same problem because no one's really been tested. Simple transactions and smart contract transactions are two different things, and smart contract transactions take a lot more research to handle than simple transactions. So we don't really know if the other chains are going to go down or not once they face the same number of smart contract transactions. And arbitrage bots will essentially be problems for every chain. Although, if you have a significant fee on your chain, they might not be as much of a problem. They might do other attacks, like the sandwiching attacks on Coinbase. But in terms of basically jamming your chain with transactions, obviously if transactions cost more money, arbitrage bots are going to have problems doing that. So there are ways to guard against it, and I think Solana should actually implement some of them as well. But Base is going to be a primary beneficiary. Unfortunately, there isn't a coin that you can take advantage of. But I think buying memes or buying DeFi on Base is a good way to actually kind of supplement for that. So definitely look at Base projects. Another one that could benefit a lot is BSC. Now, some of you are saying, isn't BSC completely centralized? Yes, BSC is completely centralized, but that's completely irrelevant to a lot of investors because they're not going to care. The fact is, it's cheap and it works fairly fast. And I think people have gotten over the Binance CZ scare, although CZ is probably going to be sentenced sometime very, very soon if he's not already been sentenced. I think it's already kind of been determined. But he also doesn't run Binance. I think his wife still kind of runs Binance. So he's involved even though if he's not involved. And Binance is pretty shrewd in terms of making business decisions. And their business is still going strong. Their coin is rising a lot. So they might benefit a lot from this Solana foobar because BSC, although centrally controlled, hasn't really gone down, and it does do a lot of transactions, way better than Ethereum. So if people have to choose between centralized, cheap and fast, or somewhat decentralized, slow and expensive, they're going to trust centralized, cheap and fast for BSC. So that might be one that you want to look at. Obviously, the coin corresponding is BNB. So you might want to look at that. Outside of the layer 2s and BNB, what else? Well, you got to go down the list. XRP, I don't really think will benefit. I think they finally got their AMMs, but they don't have smart contracts. So there's a lot lacking there, and there's just better ecosystems. So I don't actually think that's going to benefit too much from Solana's downfall. I don't think anyone builds anything on Doge right now, so that's not a consideration. Toncoin is Telegram coin. I'm not exactly sure why it's rising so much, but it probably isn't because of DeFi is my guess. Cardano is an interesting case. But the problem with Cardano is it doesn't have the liquidity and they don't have USDC. Yes, they have USDM. USDM right now has its own issues, like a DPEG at this point, and it's not big enough to actually facilitate such a big ecosystem. So Cardano may not be in the running. AVAX, I think, has already benefited a lot from this whole meme coin craze. They could definitely benefit some more from like some of the Solana users coming over. I think a couple of Solana users have already come over, but there's essentially like other competitors for that crown as well. So AVAX is something that I think you should look at this point. Definitely, but maybe not like quite like go full in on. But I do think AVAX will actually benefit from this. Sheeb has Shibarium, but that's not really like competitive for Solana. I don't really think BCH has anything. Dot's parachain structure, I don't really know how much Dot itself will actually benefit from that. So I would say pass on that right now unless you want to invest in Dot yourself. TRX has never really benefited from this stuff. It's kind of like separate on its own, and it's dependent on Justin Sun. So I definitely wouldn't bet on that. Then you get into other layer 2s like Matic and Arbitrum. And those definitely might benefit as well. Although like the focus does seem to be on Base right now for the development. Near is very interesting because it's an up and coming ecosystem. I definitely believe you can put like these things that made Solana popular on Near. And I do think, like I said, Near is upcoming. So it could benefit a lot from it. It is still kind of small right now. The liquidity is definitely not there, but it could actually be there. So I see Near as kind of like a dark horse that could possibly suck up, if Solana has problems in the long run, that could possibly suck up some of the Solana popularity. And it's like number 20 in market cap or so right now. So there's a good deal there. Not really sure about ICP. Maybe it can. LTC is not really worth mentioning. Uniswap is just a swap. Aptos, I don't think is quite there yet. So like at this point, I mean, there's HBAR as well, but it is permissioned. So that might actually stop it as well. And also like there needs to be like the infrastructure built on HBAR or like the infrastructure, DeFi infrastructure and protocols built in HBAR, which it doesn't actually have. KAS doesn't have smart contracts right now. So, and they don't have AMMs and stuff. So they're not really in the running. So I think like if you're looking at who will actually benefit from the Solana's downfall, I think it'll be Base, BNB, AVAX, Optimism and Arbitrum and maybe Near. I think those are probably the most likely candidates at this point. With like ICP maybe being kind of a dark horse and maybe like H bar as well. Although I think it's going to be harder for those two to cash in on Solana's downfall. And remember, Solana's not going to just like die or anything. I do believe it'll get most of the liquidity back once it comes back, but that might be a while. And I think the full trust may never really be established again. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.